our weekly review. Excuse me. Let's do our weekly review for April 27th, Monday through Friday, May 1st. We will be ending the month this week. We will be happy to get out of April. It has been quite a run in April, I will say. Some of it expected, some of it unexpected from my perspective. But nonetheless, it did what it did. And, I don't hate the spot that we're in. The last week of price action on NASDAQ was definitely tough. And I think if you're able to stay calm, cool, and collected, there were a few moves to catch. Overall, pretty choppy week, no news. And trading at all-time highs always going to be a little bit more difficult than normal, in my opinion. But if you're able to survive that or come away at all green, break even, you did a good job. So definitely make sure to understand that. Always start with the economic calendar. That's what I do. My weekly review. And then we'll go to the chart. We do have big news this week. We have on Wednesday in the afternoon, FOMC. Obviously at 2:30, we have Fed Chair Powell press conference. 8:30, I'm not really worried about this stuff. This is not going to move it like the afternoon will. Not really worried about consumer confidence. Jolts, obviously, every Thursday. GDP and PCE will be on Thursday. And then we have a yellow folder at 10 on Friday, which is the ISM. And this will close the month. So already, I would say Monday, I will look for trades. Tuesday, very low probability. I'm not interested. If I'm going to trade Tuesday, I'm sure I'll stream. If I'm going to trade Tuesday, it will only be evals. There is no planet, or I'll just be doing minimum risk on my fundeds to get days past for payouts. There's absolutely no world where I'm going to go in here and trade fundeds on Tuesday, trying to look for big profits. I want to bank as much capital as I can prior to Wednesday, Thursday, and try to take my good trades on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Thursday should be great as it is the last day of April, and we have these big news drivers, and everything will be behind us. So that's where we should start to see some stuff. Now, we'll start with the S&P, although they are pretty in tandem, so nothing to worry about there. This was our swing projection, which we're probably going to want to note another one at this point. I like to go low to high. I do the 1.5. I do the 2. As we're moving closer to the 1.5, it's looking more likely that that might be hit sooner than later. And then we have the 2 to reach towards for the rest of the year, or maybe early 2027. We will see. That will remain. That's just what that is. Obviously, the move that we've gotten is very clean on ES because you have these kind of equal lows here that did get swept out. Got a nice bounce through all of this, all of these really odd looking weeks, and we've just gone bullish. Now, last week I thought that we'd get more of a pullback than we did, but that is leaving a big window for us to go into, trade into, consolidate, and push higher. I don't know if that's going to happen right away. I wouldn't be opposed to Monday going up and then we go further down after that, or Tuesday going up. I'm not sure. We'll have to see what we get there. I'm always watching the weekend price to see what is going to happen there. And we will see. But looking at the weekly, I do not expect another expansion candle. In hindsight, I just watched my week review for last week, and in hindsight, it would have made more sense, especially with no news and with the big news that we have this week, to be more open than I was to bullishness and just overall not coming back down this week. Had we done that, I would have liked these news drivers to push things up. But what I am seeing as the number one target, obviously, this week is one, just to trade back below the previous week low. We do have plenty of volatility. We should have plenty of volatility to do that. And then final target is going to be the midpoint of this. Okay. And we'll just put that. See weekly. That's probably the lowest we can reasonably expect that to come to. I mean, the absolute lowest we could see it come to in 1 week, is down and actually like reach all the way down into that gap. I don't know. I don't know about that. I don't know if I'm going to be trying to target that. I think once the midpoint gets traded to you, if it does, I'm not really hunting shorts at that point anymore. I'm going to see if it turns, is how I would like to play that. It doesn't even need to go to the midpoint to remain bullish. Obviously, we're bullish overall until this 1.5, at least this 1.5 gets hit. But 2 is looking very likely at this point for the swing projections. That would be our final realistic target, is the CE of the weekly. Our main targets are the low of last week in terms of the weekly. And then we have a new day opening gap that has not been traded into yet. We gapped up on Friday and we just went up the entire day. I'll show you it on S&P. It looks a little bit different. If we go here, let's try to find it. Here it is. Let's do the 5. It'll be a little bit easier to see. This is the new day opening gap for Friday. Right there, body to body. Let's bring it down a tiny bit. There we go. So, as you can see, ES perfectly respected. It's even cleaner on the 1 minute, but I'm not going to drop down. Perfectly respected the midpoint a couple times of the end dog, and it never returned back to true day open after this. So we have some very clean targets there. In a perfect scenario, I would like to see Monday consolidate or Monday push up even. Tuesday could make the high, and then we start to work back and we would have an abundance of targets down lower. I don't know what is going to happen over the weekend. If we'll get anything that will just drive it down, then we're in a different scenario. I'm doing this early on Saturday, so I'm not positive that nothing will change. I will be watching the Sunday Open. Here we have the end dog for NQ. You can see even more bullish, and it does look like it wasn't the ugliest of pumps here. Obviously on the lower time frames, very difficult AM session on Friday. But if you're looking at the higher time frames, a little bit cleaner. PM and lunch kind of just chopped up a little bit. Not the weirdest, but drop down to the 1 so you can see that the end dog is marked here. That is going to be target number 1. Target number 1 for our shorts this week, as I do have a bearish bias going into this week, is going to be 400 points away. That does not mean that I'm just going to short the open without cause. That does not mean that I'm going to short Asia without cause. That does not mean I'm shorting anything without cause, right? But that is the big, we should trade back to this sooner than later. And then we do have a little bit of liquidity resting there. We did get these nice shorts here. That was probably the trade of the week, in my opinion, was running all of that. This big candle right there. We did capture a lot of that on stream. Anyway, neither here nor there. We are in a trending market, undoubtedly. So it is not out of the realm of possibility, and that was possible because of all this buildup here that you can see. Low resistance liquidity run pretty much all through there, and we've sustained it. Because, I mean, who is going to step in front of that train, right? In terms of institutional, day trading is another story. Day trading on the 1 minute chart is a completely different ballgame. But we do have potential to trade into here on Monday, do a little bounce. I wouldn't hate it. It would be better, in my opinion, if we don't just drop out of the sky right away. If we get if we can stay above some of these targets before the news rolls around, that's ideal, in my opinion. We'll see. If we come lower right away, let me just lay out scenarios. This is probably the best thing to do. And we'll be going through the week, but if we were to come through here early in the week and hold that in dog or get a logical bounce somewhere around there, I really do not think it's out of the realm of possibility that we go up and take that 1.5 right away. I don't. That would be the bullish case for this week. And then, of course, if we were to do that, I mean, I could foresee another bullish week. I could. It would feel silly in the moment, but when you zoom out, if you were to look at this a couple months later, it's not as silly, if that makes sense. So I think that's the hardest part. That's something that I still struggle with sometimes, and that's something that I struggled with in the past when I was more in the learning stage, was trying to just understand that these moves are not as drastic as they feel like when you're day trading. I mean, the market could do any number of things over the next 7 months and close the year at a very logical position, right? So you can't get too hell-bent on the market can't go any higher, go any lower, whatever. The market can't consolidate longer. I mean, as we saw earlier in the year, right? It can consolidate for a very, 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 very long time, and then you're going to get the run. It will always do that. It will always do something eventually, or just got to keep waiting. But irregardless, as they say, target number 1 is going to be this in dog. I would like to see price come down. Everything looks bullish, so we need things to change for these targets to be in play, if that makes sense. If Monday, Tuesday go up there, even better. Honestly, even better if Monday, Tuesday brings it up there and we take out the 1.5 right away. I mean, that would be a wonderful cap to this move in reality. We also have this big NWOG that I don't have marked for some reason. I wonder if I have it marked on the MNQ, but anyway. We have an abundance of targets, and this would be the lowest. This would be the lowest that I would take it this week, is the CE of weekly. After that, I would not be looking for shorts. And the reason being is because if it does come all the way down there, then I'm definitely capturing a lot of it. And the other piece of that is it may just sit in there for a little bit. It could sit in there for 2 weeks in theory. It could push straight out of there, but we need to get more information, more data to see what it's going to do in here. I do think that it's logical for it to come back down and revisit this. this would be our breakaway gap here on the weekly that should not be traded back into until the bull run is done. But at the moment, we are definitely in a bull market. Obviously, that is not debatable. This is the strongest bull market we've ever seen so far. And I mean, if you zoom out, it gets really silly. It's going parabolic at this point. But yeah, so there you go. You know, this will make more sense as we navigate the week, but I do like if people will watch this and just understand how I'm reviewing these things and how I'm getting prepared to look for price to validate my bias. I'm not that interested in taking these longs, but I would like to see that early. That would be perfect because I want to be further from my targets and I want price to go higher so that way we can take it lower. If it just comes down, you know, if it just were to come down on Monday, we take some of that out. We close somewhere below. There's plenty of targets to take it to if we're just going to have a straight bearish week. I don't know how likely that is. I don't know how likely that is. The market's been I don't want to say unpredictable, but you have to ride what it's doing. And that's really the best way that I can put that, honestly. You just have to ride what it's doing. And honestly, play it a little bit more reactionary because it has been quite choppy. You try to get good positions, in my opinion, and hold them, especially if you're in longs. You want to be getting good positions and trying to hold them and seeing where it will go. That is the best way to trade all-time highs. I haven't been trading AM, so we found ourselves looking for pullbacks more often than not in PM, which have been doing okay. We did get some pullbacks on Tuesday and Thursday. The Thursday one was great. This was Asia on Wednesday. So anyway, I think you guys have a pretty clear understanding of how I'm seeing this week and the options that I am laying out for price to do. And then I will just play the cards that were dealt. So any comments, questions, let me know, please. I guess really quickly, lastly, the midpoint of that, I don't see us coming back here for a while. I really do not. I mean, that would be a large drop if this were to happen anytime soon. So I see us sustaining the bull run, but I do like if we can find some rebalancing, that would be great, in my opinion. Also, if we were to come back to the consequent encroachment of the weekly that I have marked, that would put us in a situation where we're below the price of last year. So again, like we're in value again. It's not quite the 50% of the range, but it doesn't need to be, as you've seen. You don't need the perfect discount always for longs, especially. I think it's more important for shorts that we're in premium. So this would be great if we get a wick down here. Because again, if we're talking about the weekly, we can wick down. We could wick past the CE of the weekly and still hold this daily, which is a good bit down. So yeah, we'll just see what we do. We'll just see what we do, and we will play accordingly, as we always do. But we're going to be definitely taking some trades this week. With the news that we have, I mean, we should expect some movement, and we should expect some good clean sessions this week. I don't know if every single session is going to be clean. It's not really how it's been playing out, but we're going to look for opportunities where the market is consolidating on lower time frames or the 5 or 15, and then we will look for sweeps and play that accordingly. So we're going to be very, very locked in this week. Thanks, guys.